We want to welcome you to season 2 of In the Arena podcast, and we're going to go over certain foundational tools for a business. The first episode was with Jeff from Niche, and we talked about values as a group, right? We didn't interview Jeff. We let him enter into our conversation with me, Jonah, and Lauren about values and how businesses can thrive if they have a set of values that they are clear on, that they hire and fire, make decisions with those values, and they live the values every day. So if you want to grow your business, you really need to think about these topics that we talked about today and tune in. And if you have any other questions about them, we'd love to help. Check out the conversation with Jeff from Niche.
The credit belongs to the man who is in the arena. Dare greatly and build intentionally. Welcome to In the Arena Podcast. Welcome to In the Arena Podcast, Season 2, Episode 1. Yep. You're the first.
Oh, wow.
You're there. Okay. Band-Aid rips. Congratulations.
Awesome. Okay.
So like we just talked about a little bit, these episodes in Season 2 are going to be a lot more intentional. It's a conversation between four friends talking about business. And we have an operating system. An operating system is just a system of tools that we use to help grow our business, right? And so we like to speak to other business owners who have done similar things in their career and in their business. And so we're inviting Jeff with Niche, a local retail shop that has decorations, furniture, seasonal items for people around town. A well-known name in St. Tammany Parish. 2 locations. We'll announce a move y'all are making later on, so people will stay tuned in so they can hear the announcement, because it's really exciting for you guys, especially exciting for us. And so we'll get into that. But this conversation is about the first tool in our toolbox, which is your core values and the values in which your organization operates. And this is not an interview of Jeff. This is a conversation between 4 people talking about how Lettuce Media, Niche, and Arena Collective utilizes values to grow. Hopefully our audience can listen in and say, okay, I can utilize values, or I can set my values so I can grow my business. So, just to kind of kick this off, you hear people talk about their values, and they might have things written on a wall or in a manual or a handbook that says, these are your company's core values. And sometimes people don't have the true root, purpose, and necessity for values. And the thing that we think is critical as a foundational piece, step 1 for growing your business and really starting business and partnering with the right people, is knowing what your personal values are and what the values of your business are going to be. It helps you make decisions. It helps you decide who to partner with. It helps you decide how you're going to market your company, what opportunities you're going to pursue. All of those things are things that are great, but they're going to be for nothing if you don't have core values.
I always like to clarify that caveat of knowing who you are and what your values are versus being able to communicate what your values are, right? Like, I think naturally, inherently, how do we know good from evil? That gut reaction, right? And so we show up every day, we wake up every day operating within a value system that we know is intact. But what I find is you can have really successful businesses that can't use values as a tool because they didn't take the time to actually define it to the point that they can communicate it to another. And that's when it becomes of real value, when you can say, hey, do you want to work here because this is how I'm crazy and this is my genius? Does it fit you or does it not, right? Or, man, I hate working with that vendor, that drives me crazy, but why? Well, when you have it defined and can communicate it versus just knowing it, because I think if everybody walks around, they're like, yeah, I know who I am, but do you?
Yeah.
Like, can you communicate it on that level?
And it applies to every phase of a person's career, right? Like, I was talking to some students at Southeastern one time, and they had a whole bunch of booths set up with these businesses that were trying to recruit these students. And I wasn't talking about this at all, but I struck a chord. And we were talking about how they can start a podcast for a business. And I said, you have to know who your client is, what their values are, to really be able to help them tell their message to a podcast. And I said, I guarantee you, if you walked out in that lobby and you asked all those recruiters what the values of their organization were, they wouldn't know them to the point of having to look at them. And I said, if you walked into an interview, especially one with me, and you as a student said, these are my core values, this is who I am as a person, and I know these are your values because I looked them up, and I believe that we align in these ways, you're going to impress that person right off the bat, right there, right? And same with like any employees of any organization. If you know what your values are and who you are as a person, it's going to allow you to be able to relate to and stick through the hard times of growing a business or being an employee or going to school or having friends or having partners or having a relationship with a spouse. All of those things are critical to understanding yourself and your values in order for you to accomplish and be happy with what you're doing in the future.
Well, I think you also see a retention of employees if, everyone's values are aligned and everybody's on the same page. With our company, we're very selective who we hire. We don't want just a clerk. We don't want, someone that this is just a job for them. And part of our interview process is really finding out not only what somebody's, what they're interested in, what they're good at, what they're not so good at, but figuring out where they can line up in our organization. And that is why, we're very fortunate. Our turnover rate is very low. We have people that have been with us from the beginning because everybody that is long-term, they're vested.
Yeah.
They, we believe in really giving people ownership. And sometimes those are empty buzzwords for a company motto or values. But we really believe that, if you empower people, if you really let them run an organization as though it's their own, most people will do the right thing.
Yeah.
And you can still be profitable. You can still have a great company. But if you empower people to make their own decisions and, do what's right for in our case, we're very customer service driven, do what's right for the customer, do what's right for your fellow employee. We see a much better retention rate with, keeping long-term employees.
I'm glad you said that, because one of the things that we find that business owners who don't have a set of core values find happening often is that they lose employees. The turnover is high, right? And they have frustrations with customers, like Lauren has mentioned a lot of times, or they have disputes with their partners oftentimes.
Yep.
And so by you saying that we have longstanding employees means to me like you have some sort of values that you either preach and live within, that you have, that people understand and you read it or you talk about it, or like Lauren likes to say also, preach the gospel daily when necessary, use words. What that means is live your values every day so people know what they are and they feel them and they know that you're genuine about it.
Sure.
And then every once in a while when you have to actually utilize them or talk about them, then you can you can preach it, right? And talk about it. But you don't necessarily have to if you're living that.
And what y'all are saying is like values are the foundation of culture.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't have your values defined, that builds the culture and the environment of how people are living, investing every single day. Sure. How you pull in clients that share those values and know, like, and trust you. So without them, you lose that foundation of culture. And to me, and look, I'm a systems person, but culture is one. That's step one. Right? And then all your systems follow after it. So that's why you have to lead with that values alignment.
100% agree with that. It's our businesses are all very different, but they're also very alike in the sense of, you mentioned building trust. And, for us, what we do is such a personal thing. We're going into someone's home, we're designing their home, it's very personal. Yeah. And what you guys do is very personal. And so there has to be a level of trust, and there has to be a sense of being authentic, and our staff, that is something we live by is, really operate with integrity, really, do the right thing, take care of your customer, follow through on things, stand behind what you sell. It's why we've grown the way we have, because, I think we've built, we're almost 14 years old, that people feel like, okay, they're going to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. They're going to stand by whatever they sell. They create a good environment. We've all been to big box retail where you walk in and it's a clerk and they don't really care if you buy anything or not, or if you need help, they're not really interested in helping you. And that is something that, is one of our guiding principles is we want that experience. If you're buying a $5 item or a $50,000 item, well, we don't have any $50,000 items.
I was like, ooh, I got excited.
No $50,000. But whether it's a huge purchase or, an entire house or a candle, we want that experience to be the same for everybody. And that's so important. And it's teaching, like for us, because we are so service driven, with our customers, it's simple things like, if somebody buys a lamp or something, it's a given that one of our employees is going to walk out to the customer's car with them and load it in their car. Nobody asks them to do that. Yeah. We've taught that. We've lived that every day. it's second nature. You know, it's not just handing the bag to you; it's going around the counter and handing it to you, or walking out with you. And you know, those are almost seem like they're so trivial of things, but people remember them. You know, that wow, I went to that store and I was treated, you know, so well, and I didn't even ask, and they carried this out to my car. And you know, those little details, you know, offering somebody a glass of wine when they're shopping, you know, those
Sold.
those are,
Let's go.
it's not about the wine, it's about making someone feel completely
courtesy.
comfortable,
100%.
you know. And we say that, you know, every person we hire, every person that comes to work for us, treat people like they're coming into your home. When you're talking with a customer, sit down with them, you know, not stand over them, you know, and we all live by those principles. And again, none of those are world changing, but they all make a difference.
Sure.
And I think that one of the main values people crave is human, genuine interaction with people, you know, and building those relationships. You know, it's whether you're buying, you know, furniture or going to a law firm, or, you know, it all matters about that relationship, you know, and that's, we probably preach that the most, of building those relationships, making someone feel comfortable, you know, welcoming them into the store as though it's their home.
And you can also feel whenever somebody tries to force their values on people, or force the values that they've written that don't match their personality genuinely.
If they don't believe it.
Yeah, and they struggle with doing it.
Right.
You know, and when you have an employee and they don't understand why I have to walk something out to the car, or they don't understand why am I offering this person a glass of wine, why am I taking the time to sit down with them and greet everybody when they walk in the door? Why is it so important that we have the closing experience that we have? Why is it so important to communicate the way that we communicate? I mean, if they don't understand that, then they are not a bad person for that. They just don't meet the values and standard that we have set. Right. And so they need to go find the next place to go work that might have a different set of values and a different opportunity for them. And that's a perfectly okay thing.
Right.
And that's true. I mean, not every person that has ever worked for us has aligned in our values. And if they don't get it, then it's really not a place
Those people
for them.
aren't still there, are they?
No,
Right?
they're not.
Yeah.
You share that same challenge that we have, is that there's a connotation of the stereotypical experience of going into purchasing home furnishings, right?
Yep.
And then we have that stereotypical walking into a lawyer's office. And both of us, you can tell, are fighting hard against that stereotype, right?
Sure.
Like, we want to be inviting, not stuffy, feel that people are welcome and comfortable because they're dealing with a challenge, and that we can understand and relate to them on the relationship side. And we don't want to walk into your store and see somebody over in the corner doing paper, rock, scissors because nobody wants to talk to you, right?
That's right.
Or you got the overeager person trying to upsell you rather than understanding your needs and meeting them. Right. And so, you know, pointing out that employees won't always think like the business owner, and in moments of stress, sometimes they can act against, like you might say, wait, hey, why didn't you walk around the counter? And they sigh. Does that mean that they don't agree with the values? In that moment, it might be a moment of stress. But once you tell them, hey, remember, these are our values and this is why we do it, if they don't get it at that point, it's a value misalignment. Mm-hmm. If sometimes they do have to be open, right? Expand their vision a little bit to truly understand why you're doing what you're doing. We try to give our employees, you know, that benefit of the doubt. But after they've been told, if they continue to disrupt it, then you're not going to meet your standard. Sure. And they're going to be unhappy too. They're going to be like, why do you keep telling me this?
Yeah. Yeah. And I had a conversation with somebody about this at one point. They're in a world where there's a lot of like people moving from place to place in different companies. And they were recruiting somebody, and the person had a couple of hiccups in the past that people know about. And the person was like, how do I bring this person on, because I'm getting a lot of pushback that I shouldn't because of what they've done in the past. And I said, well, if you have a clear set of values that you can show them on the front end and say, this is what we expect. We expect you to live this standard and up to these values, and they understand them. And then they do something to infringe on those values, and then you let them go, then you have done nothing wrong. You've given them an opportunity to right their wrong. You've clearly showed what you expect. And then if they violate the value, then you get the chance to let them leave. If you don't have a set of values, you bring them in, then you cannot have a clear conscience that you made a clear expectation to them. Mm-hmm. And then whenever you have that conversation about why you're letting them go, you don't have a clear set of guidelines to show this is what you did. So the value tool allows you to find the right people within your organization, set clear expectations with them, and then hold them accountable to it. If they don't meet the standard you've set, and you can show them, and you can show a set of values that they violated, then you have no reason for being feeling upset or frustrated or worried that anybody's going to think of you any other way because you were clear.
It sets the expectation, though, for the employee as well. You know, if they kind of know what's expected of them and know kind of where you align in your outlook on running your business, I think most people want to do the right thing. Okay. Most people want to, you know, be part of an organization that aligns with what they believe in. You know, we tell our staff, you know, with having as many employees as we do, there's a lot of personalities, and we have a lot of strong personalities. That's not a bad thing, but you know, it's so important that everybody really does work together. And there have been people that have worked for us that did not follow that, and they're no longer with us. But the people that again have been with us for a long time, they understand that we're probably going to spend more time together at work than we are with a lot of our family. Mm-hmm. So we kind of all need to get along, you know. And it's so, you know, and I think customers can automatically tell when they walk into a store if it's rife with tension and people are at each other's throats.
Energy is real.
It's very real. I mean, I can think of stores I've gone into. It's like, whoa, they're obviously all commission. They've jumped all over me, and they're just trying to upsell me. And this is a very uncomfortable experience. Or we've all walked into a store and been ignored, where you walk around and it's like, hello, like I'm here. And, you know, the employees are all visiting behind the counter.
Or doing this on their phone.
Or on their phone, right. And so it's easy to do that. It's easy to fall into that. And in a retail environment, we do have to sometimes remind people like, hey, you know, you need to get off your phone, and you are working. Yeah. But for the most part, I think we've got that. But again, it goes back to making people feel very comfortable, really, you know, interacting with customers, genuine conversation, not just the, hi, welcome to the store, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
You know,
it's like culture and the experience, but also the excellence that you guys, the standard that you have set is really important. It's like the same thing, even in like video production, like live, you know, like a stage or something.
Sure.
You only notice when the production team did something wrong is because the lights out. You know what I'm saying?
That's a great point.
It's good when you don't notice. And so when people walk in or experience your culture and they don't notice anything wrong, it just feels normal. That's like the best goal that you could ever have.
That's a great analogy.
You know,
like
you shouldn't notice it.
Yeah.
It should just be, you know, how it is, which is like your culture, your
that's
excellence,
a great
values.
explanation. Yeah.
That's when it's working.
Like,
yeah.
check, success.
You don't notice. It just, you just.
And it should be seamless. You know, it should be, you know, an experience. And, you know, that's as we interview people and have meetings with our employees, you know, one of the things that we talk about often is there's big box retail. There's Amazon. You can buy everything online. We don't sell anything that you can't find somewhere online. And so the way we strive and the way we grow is by creating that experience that you're not going to get, you know, on a computer screen or with a clerk, that experience. And it literally is down to the candle we burn in the store, the music we play in the store. It's all about creating that, and the employees, most importantly, creating that experience, because you could go to a big box retail or just go online and click away and buy everything that we sell.
Yeah.
You know,
You have to have the additional value add today.
you have to have that experience.
The world has changed. You have to.
It has changed, and I think people are craving that interaction more. I think we're seeing a shift that we all buy our paper towels on Amazon. You know, you're going to buy certain things online, but when you're buying something like a gift or furnishing your home, having a human being to interact with, you know, somebody comes in, it's usually guys come in and they realize it's their wife's birthday or something. And there's a deer in the headlights, and they walk in, they're like, I need a gift. And let me guess.
All right, so we're highlighting this value add, right?
Yeah, right.
Need a gift for the wife.
Yeah.
So, you know, but it's taking the time to listen to, hey, I need a gift for a neighbor or my son or daughter or something. And well, what are their interests? What are they, you know, and really finding out about the person and then helping them find the right gift. And that could be a $5 item or a $5,000 item, you know, and it's so important that we do that interaction that you just can't get, you know, online.
It's a consultation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
that matters.
The Christmas ornament is clutch. Where if you need a Christmas ornament during Christmas, go to Niche. They have
Nice.
all of them that you can pick from.
That's about
And I-
15,000 of them.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Do y'all still have the pickles? The Christmas pickles?
We did. We sold out of them this year.
They're the best. That's
Yeah.
the best
How did
Christmas
I not
tradition
get
that you
that
could
for
ever have.
Dylan?
Yeah.
It's a German tradition. They
Yeah.
would hide a pickle, and the person who finds it, I forgot, they get a special gift or something like that.
Something like that.
But I have one of y'all's pickles.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So you have to hide it in the tree.
Okay.
And
Well, my daughter's name's Dylan, and so the
Nice.
volleyball team all calls her Dill Pickle,
Dill pickle.
and we have an
Okay.
obscene amount of stuffed pickles.
so we will hook you up
So
this,
I need
this holiday
I
season.
need a pickle.
That's the best.
That's become a tradition that we sell. We've sold those for probably 10 years now.
They're awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very
All right,
cool.
So the two things I want to talk about before we wrap up. So the first thing is how you utilize your values within your marketing system. And then the second thing is how do you create a value system and how do you, what is the process that we kind of utilize a little bit on how do you establish your value? So from a marketing standpoint, you know, when we're doing video and we're including our employees, I think that our values shine through in our marketing because our employees can come on camera and they interact and add the education and the value that we do when we get on camera and do our video. And so your values allow you to show who you are as an organization through what your values are. Again, not necessarily talking about them all the time. A perfect example for us is, you know, our values, our leadership, legacy, integrity, and vocation, right? And so
Teamwork.
And so our goal is to make an impact on our community, right? Create an environment where our clients can succeed. And so we don't necessarily always show on our social media account us servicing our clients, but we might be in the community adding value and creating a legacy for our organization by supporting nonprofits and doing things around town in the area that we're making an impact. And that is living out our values, right? And we show that through our social media marketing. And so if your values are leaving a legacy, how are you leaving a legacy? Talk about that and show what you're doing. Not in a bragging way, but just when you're out doing a nonprofit event or you're meeting with a client and you're showcasing that you're making an impact on a local school or something like that, you can show that with pride because you're living your values. And so, I mean, it's just an example of how we use our values. So you want to talk about when we're marketing and doing video, like how you're showing values through that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important. And your videos are great. You do a lot of those, like, you like highlight new items and stuff like that, right? Yeah. And I think the best thing to know when you're creating content is you know who you're talking to, right? And convey those values to the people that I would align with them, you know? And then I think it's a tricky question because you really need to be careful that content is true to you as a company as well. And I think that's the biggest thing is it needs to make sense for you. You don't if dancing may not work for you if you're a law firm, which sometimes we've done some dancing videos.
But we like to have fun.
But but the culture you walk into arena and it's fun, right? Or like the videos that
Are
we
you
do.
saying that somebody might be twerking if you walk into
Maybe.
our law
I mean,
firm
it could.
one day?
It could. There could be a few people that would do it. But like for us, we're a little bit more laid back and fun. So we try to have fun with our videos and our marketing. So that way people know when they actually meet us or meet you, they know who you are and how you act and you're not a surprise. That's the biggest thing. Like when we're filming with people that have different temperaments, you don't want to be the big crazy smiling guy and they meet you and you're like limp fish handshake.
Right.
And it's like, well, you're
the
not
worst,
you're
by
not
the
that
way.
guy. It is the worst.
You can't work here if you have
The
what
limp,
did you say? Limp fish?
Limp fish, yeah. It's just like a
Fish handshake.
but that's the big most important thing too is embracing who you are and your culture and your values through your marketing. You have to
certainly-
be consistent with that.
Certainly being involved in the community, that's again establishing yourself as, not just some other store, really standing out, donating to charities, being part of philanthropy. We do gift baskets and fundraisers for all the schools and, supporting educators, those things matter because I think that when people see that you're involved in community causes that, Humane Society or New Heights and, these really important organizations that are right here in our backyard to support those shows that we're all more than just a company. We're all truly vested. Our decision to move back here was this gravitational pull of family, that we were in the Northeast for a long time. And I said, I'm never moving back to Louisiana. I loved it. But it's hard to explain. There was this gravitational pull of how important, as I get older, I realize how important family is and being part of your family and part of your extended family, and that includes our staff, that's the people we work with. I mean, we consider them family, not all of them, most of them. Kidding, most of them.
Look, we go through this process with a lot of businesses, and a lot of times they want to choose family as a value. And I'm okay with it when they can work through it and define it. But if there's a hiccup of, they're family and you never fire family, I don't view family that way. I view family as I love you so much that I'm going to tell you the meanest stuff because you need to hear it because I care about you and I want you to grow.
Of course.
So like for me, the family value is just fine because that means I'm going to go in real hard, right? But for somebody that has that hesitation, I'm like, maybe that's not the right value for you. So I'm glad that you brought up, that value because we get it often. Same thing with teamwork. There's positive and negatives to teamwork. If there's not single point accountability, there's ball drops or two people, three people doing the same task. Nobody has time for that, right? And so there's a positive, negative to both. So really diving into defining those values is so important to me. And I guess that goes towards the second part of your question is you can't audit your social media content and your marketing and your community service to decide whether it's worth your time, energy, and resources because it costs money to create content and it costs your time to go being invested in the community, right? And so you need something to audit against that. And that's where actually having those values written matters. It's not for the t-shirt. It's not for the wall. It's for those business planning meetings that you have every quarter that you're revisiting saying, am I truly staying intentional and intact with my values? Or when you have in that employee that you have to have the hard conversation with, you can easily point to it and say, this is how you didn't adhere to that value. It's not, my gut told me I should be mad at you. Or I didn't like the way you did that. You can give them with specifics. On this day, line number 14 of our leadership value, this one is what you violated, bruh. Like we need to talk about this one right here. So taking it to that next level in that tool process is what's so important to me.
Yeah. So establishing your values, right? There's a couple of things that we offer. And in the show notes of this show, there'll be an opportunity for you to get a link to a PDF where we kind of talk about the things to start getting your mind geared towards identifying your values. But, we sit down with people and we have them think about the words that mean the most to them. And one of the things that I tell people to think about when they're trying to determine their values is like, if there's something that keeps you up at night, that bothers you to your core, to where you get sick to your stomach or you can't get it out of your brain, if you reverse engineered that, it's probably going to be related to a value that was infringed on. Correct. Right? Like if somebody bothered you so much because they took action, it's probably because they didn't tell the truth, and truthfulness and honesty is a very important thing to you. And so that by them fibbing may have infringed on your value of honesty, right? And so, or integrity. And that could be a reverse engineered value, right? And your value for integrity or truthfulness may be like, you're going to say with honesty the truth every single day, and you're going to live that value every day. And that could be how you reverse engineer your value. So that's one way to kind of think about it. Yep. Also, you just take a whole bunch of words and look at them and circle them and whittle them down to 2 or 3 or 4 that really speak to you, and define and take those words, think about them. And, they can change over time, but like we challenge people to stick with them for a year at least before you really go back and reevaluate what those things are. But choosing the words is not the end all be all, right? Once you've chosen the words, you have to define those and talk about why it's so important to define your values.
Because otherwise it's just a word and it's subjective. And, like as attorneys, like we're wordsmiths, right? We can argue any definition that we want. But when you sit there and say, this is what it means to me, again, that's when you can audit the behavior. That's when you can go out and say, I am truly living my values because you know what it means and what it looks like, right? I mean, most people don't go that far, and you take all the different behavioral, traits that we can all be born with. We're all uniquely made our own individual person. And so we can take integrity and it can mean one thing to you and mean a whole different thing to me. But at our organization, this is what it looks like, right? And so the expectation is set between Jonah and I so that value that's so important to me is never disrupted. right? So that he knows, I want you to challenge me. I want you to come to me with that hard conversation. I don't want you holding on to that, because withholding information is a lack of integrity for me. That means that you think that you don't trust me enough to provide me with that information. That's a deep meaning for that word. Other people might just say it's doing the right thing. What is the right thing, right? That's different to people too. And so, I mean, I cannot stress it enough, especially when you have partnerships and definitely when you have employees, that setting of expectations is important. And you cannot set that expectation without having the definition of the word that you agree upon. And it comes back to standard operating procedures as well. Jared will tell you, because I say it till I'm blue in the face. Jonah, you probably get annoyed with me too. But it's the agreed upon standard. So with your values, it's the agreed upon definition, so that you're not forcing something upon everyone. They're saying, no, I see, I hear, and I understand that value, and I agree that I'm going to adhere to it.
Yeah. And so, just some practical applications of that. When we first started Arena, there was 4 of us, and we had 5 values. And so, when we agreed upon what those values were, each one of the 4 of us went home and defined the value that
with the
we
bullet
were
points
assigned.
that we agreed upon
sure.
too. We agreed upon the bullet points underneath them before we put them into statements.
And so when we all went home and wrote the values, and we came back to the meeting as a group, and we decided before we decided we were going to work together, is that we all said, okay, these are how we feel about each one of these words, and we all talked about it and had an honest conversation, making sure those things and those values were all aligned. And once we all came to agreement, we put them on our website. So like they're there. The definitions that we all agree to as an organization are all there, and we can go back to those and look at them. And we had a hard conversation a couple of weeks ago between the 4 partners. We agreed on something at the beginning. We kind of started wavering on that decision. It was a value aspect, and we went back and we said that's what we agreed upon. And so we went back and we adjusted back to what we had agreed upon in the first place. And so
Healthy little audit.
yeah, it was nice. And it was easy because we had already defined that. And we all were on the same page with it then. We're still on the same page with it now. We had an opportunity to all grow together even more by making that decision and becoming aware of that. And so, yeah, again, your values are huge, and we use it for hiring too. And I mean, we can get into that at a different time just because we're getting close to the end. But, we make sure our people that are wanting to join our firm review our values and tell us how they align with our values before we go to step 2 in our interview process. And we want them, like Lauren says, to know how crazy we are. It's because this reality is we are that person. If you're not going to be comfortable with that.
In the best way, right?
Yeah, it's not a great place for you to be.
Yeah.
So before we log off, Jeff,
Yes.
Niche, y'all got some big stuff going on. You got a location in Mandeville. You got a location in Covington. I'll let you break the news and tell everybody.
So the Covington store we did close at the end of the year, and we hoped that we could transition it a little differently than as it's playing out. But this is a good thing. We are building a store here in Terabella.
Wait, where? Here in
right
Terabella?
Here in Terabella.
HQ? Get out of here.
And we are hopeful that we will be open for the holiday season. That is the plan.
Very cool.
Awesome.
We are
you better get to work.
Well, we have some work to do. But we are super excited. This is an opportunity to sort of evolve our company with still Niche, the lifestyle store, everything that it is now, but distilled a bit with a more neighborhood-centric type of store. We plan to sell wine, so you can
Terebella's going to love that.
have a glass of wine while you shop. Or
I'm just thinking Stephanie will always have the best gifts.
Yeah, no kidding.
There you
I
go.
bet. I mean, I'm hearing all this culture. They might not even walk over the present for
I
you.
think we probably could do
Deliver
that. Yeah, we've
to Arena.
Yeah.
You know,
I think we could make that happen. So
That's
it's
actually a really good idea. I
my
like that.
husband might be getting home to court. I'm just as bad as the guys. Can you call me on Valentine's Day too? and
we'll
remind-
take care of you. Don't worry. But it's such a great opportunity to be part of growing as you guys being here, to see Terabella develop the way I think we all imagine it to be. And so we are super excited. And stay tuned. It'll be we'll be breaking ground very, very soon.
We're excited.
So people, if they want to learn more about Niche, right? You have a website. Obviously, you can go to your website. You have 2 locations. We have 1 location right now in Mandeville, right next to Whole Foods.
Yep.
Beautiful store, great location for people to get to. And if they need to get in touch with you, obviously you are there
Pretty much all the time.
Yeah, so I mean, like they'll see you in there anytime that they need anything, and you have great employees. And if you're looking for home decorations, gifts, furniture, interior design,
yeah, we do
all
interior
that
design,
stuff.
all
Like
of
that's the place to be. So
Send all your friends with bad taste. They
we
need
can
help.
help them. We can help them.
Well, look, man, this was a great first episode. I really don't think it could have gone any better. I think you did a
fun.
great job.
Awesome.
I'm excited for y'all's growth, and
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming on.
Yes, thank you.